Michigan Out of Doors Online is brought to you in part by want to win a $500 Jay's gift card, a fly fishing trip in northern Michigan, a Lake Michigan charter boat trip, a walleye jigging trip on the Saginaw River? Well, join the Michigan United Conservation Clubs this summer as they continue to fight for fish, and 4 lucky winners will get a chance to get out fishing and support conservation. By Tri-County Logging. Experienced in sustainable forestry practices, Tri-County Logging can help you manage your property by keeping your woods healthy and generate income. Serving southern and mid-Michigan for nearly 50 years, TriCountyLogging.com.
For over 30 years, Vanguard Outdoors has made the gear that turns a regular hunt into another fine day of field. We know that a good shooting stick or a nice pair of binoculars can make or break your day. Our design teams include serious hunters who work hard to bring you the best sporting optics, shooting sticks, tripods, bags, and more. We are Vanguard Outdoors.
Well, hey everyone, welcome to Michigan Out of Doors. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We have a good variety on this week's show. We're going to kick things off on the Grand River by doing a little bass fishing. Then we're going to stay kind of in that mid-Michigan area, head to Montcalm County, do a little trolling for some crappie with a grandfather and a couple grandsons. Then we're going to visit with good friend of the show, Michael Morris. He's a knife maker over on the east side of the state, see what he's been up to. Lots of good stuff. You stay tuned. I'm Jimmy Gretzinger, and it's time for Michigan Out of Doors.
From the first spring rains to the soft summer breeze, dancing on the pine forest floor, the autumn colors catch your eyes. Here come the crystal winter skies. It's Michigan, Michigan out of doors.
What a beautiful day in the woods.
Someday our children all will see this is their finest legacy, the wonder and the love of Michigan. As the wind comes whispering through the trees, the sweet smell of nature's in the air. From the Great Lakes to the quiet stream, shining like a sportsman's dream, it's a love of Michigan we all share.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by Country Smokehouse, a sportsman's meat processor and Michigan destination since 1988. Offers a variety of homemade smoked meats and Michigan-made products in-store and online. The Country Smokehouse features an outdoor barbecue and bar. Details at countrysmokehouse.com. By Greenmark Equipment. Greenmark Equipment is a John Deere dealership network in southwest Michigan and northern Indiana. Greenmark provides sales and services to farmers, commercial businesses, large property owners, and homeowners. Information about pricing and products available can be found online at greenmarkequipment.com. By Angler Quest Pontoons. Angler Quest is a Michigan-based company building boats designed for comfort and fishing functionality. For more information, anglerquestpontoons.com. By Polar Craft Boats, offering riveted and welded boats for the outdoor enthusiast. Whether you're targeting fish or waterfowl, Polar Craft Boats have several models to choose from that keep you high and dry. For more information, polarcraft.com.
Last week I had the opportunity to tag along with a couple of friends for an evening float on the Grand River. It was overcast and windy, and we were hoping we could convince a few smallmouth to bite.
So we're fishing on the Grand River today, which is one of the biggest rivers in Michigan. I think it's second longest if I'm remembering right. But it's an awesome smallmouth fishery. It's got a lot of walleye, catfish, awesome steelhead runs in the Grand. Honestly, probably one of the least fish overlooked rivers. There's many miles of it you can go on an average day and maybe not even see another person. And the smallmouth fishing here is phenomenal. It's not uncommon to go out after work and have a 20-30 fish day by yourself. People like to say the average size of the fish in here isn't great, which I would kind of agree with, but the quality fish are here. You just catch a lot of small ones for every big one that you catch. But even on rivers where I catch larger fish, I don't find that I catch as many small ones, and I don't mind catching 20 small ones with some you know, 15 to 20 inches mixed in there. I think that's a lot more fun. Okay. Oh, a little bit better. Not what we're after yet. No, not quite. Dustin and I fish out here quite a bit. Pretty much all the stretches of the Grand, you know, from all the way from Lansing to the lake are really good. We do a little bit of fly fishing, a little bit of spin fishing. Just kind of depends on the day how the fish are acting. And the good thing about smallmouth is smallmouth are pretty aggressive fish that will eat just about anything on the right day, but they can also be challenging on certain days, and you got to really figure out what they want too. So, in my opinion, they're one of the greatest game fish in Michigan, or honestly the world. They fight harder than any fish pound for pound that I've ever caught. They're awesome. These single hooks, I started using these for trout, but I use them almost exclusively for smallmouth now too. Just causes a lot less harm to the fish, and I notice zero difference in hookup ratio. On some days I feel like they work a little bit better because you don't have 3 hooks to pull through the fish's mouth. You know, you just got that one point, so it's actually easier. It takes less force to hook a fish if they're kind of coming up and nipping it at the back real lightly, especially. All in all, I think it works great, and it's better for the fish if you're catch and release angler. Yeah, see, that one's a lot cooler color if you look at it.
It's got really pretty marks.
The last one was really green, and this one's got more of those bars and spots to it. It's funny how different they can be.
These guys were throwing a variety of baits today, but the soft plastics were catching more fish than anything else. So I had Landon walk me through what kind of plastics he likes to use and how to set them up.
So Texas rig, rubber crayfish like this is one of my favorite lures for catching both numbers and quality size smallmouth. Just get these worm hooks with the bent shank like that, and kind of the key to it is just running it in far enough where the knot and the eye of the hook are covered. And you want the back of it to be straight. You don't want it to be like bent up like that or like this. So you just push it forward slightly like that, push it straight up through. And then that hook's nice and straight there. Lure's nice and straight. And then to make it weedless, you just pull that forward a little bit. And then it puts that point down in there. You gotta set the hook pretty hard to get it to come out, but you get snagged up a lot less in rivers on rocks and weeds and sticks and all kinds of stuff.
As we approached the halfway point in our stretch, the fishing really started to pick up, with lots of smallmouth making their way into the raft.
He ate it right in the middle of all those carp.
Oh, he's got a real crayfish right in his throat.
Oh. Wow. Did he just swallow it? He just swallowed it. Did you see that? Yeah. Didn't even pull a banker from catching the last fish, and we've got another nice one on. Getting a little better. Pretty one. Yeah. I'm gonna get hooked right in their cheek there. Come in here.
Right when we got on the river, we picked up a couple of fish right away, and it slowed down, which we kind of expected through that stretch back there. It's a little bit slower water. Water temps are definitely up after the heat that we've had the past couple of weeks. So finding anything with some riffle and some fluctuation in the water is helping it cool down, oxygenate it a little bit. It seems to be where we're finding more fish. Right as we were coming up to the smaller little coffer dam here, we started picking up fish again. This is kind of a spot we've found quite a few in the past, so we're hoping we can get up in here and get to some of these rapids we just rolled through and pick a couple big fish up. When it comes to a really aggressive, fun-fighting fish that you can find almost anywhere, smallmouth kind of fits the bill. So I think that's what I like the most about it. You can find them almost anywhere you go. They put up a great fight. They're fantastic sport fish. I don't personally keep many and eat them, but the folks that I know that do absolutely love them. So, there's nothing wrong with that either.
As we continued to make our way downriver, Landon decided to switch over to the fly rod to see if he could catch a few fish on the top water before the sun set.
That's 2 fish. You need to roll now.
We're fishing a boogle bug right now, which is kind of a very traditional bass fly. It's got a popper lip on it, so you can pop it like a normal hula popper, but on fly gear. And a lot of times the smallies really like that topwater action. What I'll usually do is throw it out there and just let it sit real calm for a minute, and then just pop it 5-6 times, let it sit, pop it once, let it sit, kind of vary up the presentation and see what they're wanting. Sometimes they want like really aggressive pops, and some days they just want that like real nice and slow pop.
Although we never did end up catching any real big smallmouth, we boated over 20 fish in just a couple of hours, which made for a fun night on the water. Special thanks to Landon and Dustin for letting me tag along on a night of bass fishing here on the Grand River.
Well, when it comes to fishing here in the great state of Michigan, we have a lot to choose from our many Great Lakes, miles and miles of rivers and streams, but sometimes it's fun to just hit an inland lake and do a little pan fishing.
That's a semi-private lake, and it's about 11 acres, and it's really good crappie and bluegill fishing, good bass fishing, somewhat good pike fishing, and it's kind of the perfect place to go on the weekend because out front where the big lake is, a lot of skiing and tubing and ripping and tearing, and you have your wilderness experience back here. So.
And who's fishing with us today?
I got 2 grandsons. I got Evan Brand, he's from Olivet, and Danny Hagenauer from Saginaw.
Okay, and they know what to do here on this lake?
We'll find out.
We were in Montcalm County today, but it felt like the middle of the Upper Peninsula, tucked away in the middle of nowhere. This place was like a little slice of heaven with quite a few fish for a morning of trolling for some panfish.
This has been a real funny lake. It took me a long time to learn it. I don't know, the more I trolled with kids, and the more tangled up we get and the more messes we had, I learned that trolling was a lot easier. The kids didn't have to cast, and the fish would always come straight up the back of the boat, so it really avoided the tangles. Kind of got the hang of it.
Gotcha. Well, Jack does have the hang of this lake after fishing it for decades. We were sorting some fish today, but there were many keepers as well.
There's a nice crappie. Get him in.
Whoa!
There's one 11 inches.
That's a big, nice fish right there.
That's what we're after.
And get it out as well.
Nice fish.
Been probably 7 or 8 years since the last winter kill, and the crappies, the oldest generation, they're right at 11 inches right now. And the bluegills, there's a lot of 9-inch bluegills in this lake.
Okay.
And I think they're on the spawning beds right now. We haven't been really catching them the last couple of weeks. And I'm pretty sure they're...
What else you got swimming in here? Is there any pike and bass in here?
Yeah, there is. I got a son that's really into catch and release on bass. Makes me feel guilty if I keep a bass. So I have a tendency not to fish them very often.
It was really just a perfect morning for fishing. Jack has taken about all of his 20-some grandkids out here quite often.
We usually have grandkid camp for a week every summer. And when we had a lot of grandkids at the right age to come to camp, we actually would split the girls up one week and the boys the next. So we'd spend a lot of time with the kids out here fishing. And Dixie and I work with children at church. And so we get a lot of church kids out here.
Nice.
So between church and grandkids, we're out here quite often.
When Jack told me that he likes to troll for gills and crappie, I was a bit surprised, but it is a great way to target more water than maybe a normal setup, and it was very effective with just a gulp plastic and a sinker a couple feet in front of the hook.
We're fishing down about 4 feet right now, probably. As the summer progresses, you keep going deeper. You might have to go by the end of August, middle of August, you might have to go as far as 10, 12 feet down.
And just put some more weight on it then? Is that how you get
More
it in?
weight, yeah.
Okay. And how was today? Is today an average day of fishing on this lake, or a good day or a bad day?
Average.
Okay.
Average. The little ones have been quite prominent for some reason today, but like I told you earlier, prior to June, it was just no little fish at all to speak of when you're trolling up here.
Jack just turned 80 years old at the beginning of this year, and when his wife Dixie contacted me to see if I might be looking for a story, we were able to finally get a date on the calendar, and I'm glad I did. Jack is exactly what we like to highlight on the show, a sportsman who is all about getting new folks onto the water, really just making sure that we have folks to carry on this tradition. And I asked his grandkids what they like about this kind of fishing.
Well, it's easy.
Yeah.
The first one, yeah. Catch fish almost every cast, and they're fun to reel in. They're a good fight, and it's really fun being out here, yeah.
Now, did you kind of grow up doing this then? Did your grandpa teach you, or who taught you how to do this?
Yeah, he taught me. I was out here when I was younger, but yeah.
Can you outfish him now, or who does the best?
No, you can never outfish the driver.
And tell me what you like about this kind of fishing.
Just coming out and spending time with friends and family, and spending time with Grandpa, and just coming out here, getting away from everything is really nice every now and then. Just a cleansing of your mind, and it's just enjoyable. And Grandpa's brought us up in fun heritage, hunting, fishing, all that stuff.
And then who does the cleaning of the fish? Is it a team effort, or?
Yeah, you all got to do it.
Nice.
Learn young.
Well, at the end of the day, we had about 20 or so keepers, just a perfect amount for a fish fry. We dodged a few raindrops today, but overall, it was a perfect morning of fishing.
Maybe you had one of those little bluegills on after it.
Is that our first bass of the day?
First bass of the day.
We don't do a lot of pan fishing stories on soft water, and I'm not sure exactly why that is. Today was a great reminder of how much fun this kind of fishing can be. Very stress-free, lots of action, not many tangles, and you end up with some great eating fish for the dinner table. This lake just felt like you were up north somewhere with no buildings on it at all. And we wound down the morning and packed up and headed in. Jack's house was just a quarter mile or so away, where the assembly line was put in place to quickly make short work of these fish. Jack has this down to a science, and the fish lunch we had waiting for us was worth the trip all by itself. Today was a lot of fun, and thanks to Jack and his wife Dixie for doing what they can to get folks on the water and make sure we have fishermen for years to come here in Michigan's Out of Doors. Well, if you've ever been to many of the different outdoor shows across the state of Michigan, you may have run across one of our more famous knife makers here in the state of Michigan, Michael Morris.
Things don't look very different on the outside at Michael Morris's home business here in Yale, but inside the Morris Knives shop, lots has changed since we were here in 2012. We stopped in to visit with Michael last week to check out his latest creations and to hear about the exciting competition he took part in a couple of years ago on the Discovery Channel. Michael's knives have made him well known across the nation.
Well, it was about 4 years ago, I think it was. I was actually invited to go on that TV show, Forged in Fire, but I don't do forging. I do what they call stock removal, where we take a piece of steel that's already flat, basically, and grind away what we don't want, heat treat it, temper it, finish it, and you have a knife. On that show, they'll give you a car bumper or a ball bearing and ask you to pound it out and make a knife. That's too much work. So I use, mainly Morris Knives is familiar by using files. I use files for most of my knives, and the reason I use files, number one, is because they're easy to get, but a file is one of the best sources of high carbon tool steel you can find. They're tough, they're strong, and they're wear resistant. They hold a remarkable edge. Now, you can't just take a file and make a knife out of it. You have to temper it first, because actually a file is so hard it's brittle. If you make a knife, it'll hold a remarkable edge like that, but it's much more likely to chip or break. So what we do here is we have a tempering oven. We put them in that oven and we draw that Rockwell back. It's the gauge that they use to measure the hardness of a steel. We draw that back to 58 or 60. That way they're still tough, but they're not as likely to chip or break. And I tell people all the time anyway, if you ever break a Morris knife, you get a new one for free. Now, if you break that new one, you're on your own because you're doing something you ain't supposed to be doing with a knife. So just like any other custom knife maker, we stand behind our work just like anybody else would.
4 years ago, Michael turned down the chance to compete on Forged in Fire, and then a couple of years later, another offer came his way.
Beginning of 2018, I was contacted by a spin-off from Forged in Fire called Master of Arms. And as you can see the poster right here, Master of Arms, they might be making a knife or a gun or a sword or a cannon or a crossbow or any other kind of antique weaponry that they can come up with. Well, I'm a weapons maker more than a forging knife maker. I don't do any kind of forging. So when they contacted me, I said, yeah, I'd love to go on your show. And we made what we call a Elgin cutlass pistol. Now, the Elgin cutlass pistol came out back in the 1830s, almost 200 years ago. There was 150 of them made for a South Sea expedition for the United States Navy. It was the only dual-purpose weapon that was commissioned in the U.S. military at that time. And what they wanted us to do was take the materials that they gave us to work with and make our version of that. Now, since I came home, I've made another version that's much more historically accurate to the original ones 200 years ago. And I tell people all the time as well, when I made that weapon for the show, they didn't let me keep my weapon. No, but they let me keep the $10,000, so I'm okay with that.
With some extra money in his pocket and a championship under his belt, Michael came home and has been inspired to make more dual-purpose weapons.
This book came out in 1972. It's called Blades and Barrels, and they're out of print now, but this is one of the books that inspired me to make the Elgin cutlass pistol, which is also what I won the Master of Arms contest with. This one is much more historically accurate, and we make these and sell these as well. This is a $600 item right here. It's a 45 caliber muzzle loader, and this is so much fun to shoot, as you can imagine. This is what we call a boarding axe. Now, this again is 100% my design, but they made these back in the 1600s. 400 years ago they made this weapon, and back then they were flintlocks or wheel locks, but the idea, there was a lot of these that were popular in some of the navies around the world for shipboarding. And the idea here is if you're in a conflict, you can shoot your opponent, and if that doesn't stop him, at least it would hurt him enough to give you the advantage. Well, what was it? In 1860-something, Colonel Colt perfected the 6-shooter revolver. Now you can shoot your opponent, and if that doesn't stop him, you can shoot him again and again and again. So the dual-purpose weapon phased out over the 6-shooter. However, imagine how cool that would be to have something like that sitting on your fireplace mantle.
It's amazing to see how Michael can take a file and a piece of wood and turn them into a work of art. He says he's always had that creative bug.
I've always enjoyed making stuff my entire life. I graduated high school when I was 18 years old and immediately went to work in a machine shop just a few short months after that. I've always enjoyed making stuff. I've made downhole oil field parts. You know, I've made automotive tooling. I've made satellite parts that went into outer space. I've made parts for the International Space Station. I've made titanium hip implants, knee replacement. I've always enjoyed making stuff. So making knives really came kind of natural to me, also because I was so familiar with working with steels and metals in the first place. I consider myself now a sculptor because I take a raw material here and a raw material there, and I blend them together to make a final product. And of course this year, you know, as business goes better, there's been a time or two that we've had to hire some part-time help. Carlos has been working with me this year for the last few weeks, and he seems to be working out. I call him now my part-timer / apprentice. You know, I've hired people before to work for me, but you can really tell the difference between somebody who wants to learn how to make a knife and somebody who wants to earn a paycheck. There's a big difference. Well, Carlos, when I told him that I needed some part-time help, I told him, you know, I'm going to pay you this much, and he wasn't even expecting that at all. I think he said he would have been happy coming to work with me just for the knowledge that he gained from doing that. You know, but so I'm really glad that Carlos is with me now.
What a great legacy to pass on to the next generation. Knife making is an art that has been around for centuries, and Michael Morris is doing his part to contribute new styles to the craft while honoring the heritage and history of some old styles as well. It's a fun way to make a living right here in Michigan's Out of Doors.
Well, hey everyone, thank you so much for watching Michigan Out of Doors this week. If you missed part of this week's show or last week's show, if you want to see something again, you can always check us out online. You can do that through our website or different social media platforms as well as YouTube. You can actually subscribe to our channel there and get an email every time we post something new. Make sure you are getting out and enjoying all that our state has to offer. And if we don't see you in the woods or on the water, hopefully we'll see you right back here next week on your PBS station.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by.
Do you dream of somewhere bigger than your backyard? You can get there with Greenstone. Whether you want to hunt, fish, hike, or just watch the sunset, we're ready to help you own your place in the great outdoors. To learn more, visit greenstonefcs.com.
By Alta Equipment Company, providing sales, rentals, service, and parts because uptime matters. From earth moving to landscaping and light construction, Alta offers over 50 brands across 7 Michigan locations to serve you. More information online or 844-GO-2-ALTA. By Angler Quest Pontoons. Angler Quest is a Michigan-based company building boats designed for comfort and fishing functionality. For more information, anglerquestpontoons.com. By Polar Craft Boats, offering riveted and welded boats for the outdoor enthusiast. Whether you're targeting fish or waterfowl, Polar Craft Boats have several models to choose from that keep you high and dry. For more information, polarcraft.com.
When I wander far away, a dream stays with me night and day. It's the road that leads to my home state. I am a Michigan man. Changing seasons paint the scene like rainbow trout in a hidden stream. The white-tailed deer in the tall pine trees. I am a Michigan man. I am a Michigan man. Ask where I'm from and I'll show you my hands. Lord above, I love this land. I am a Michigan man. From the Keweenaw down to St. Joe, Kalamazoo, East to Monroe, to St. Marie and back again. I am a Michigan man.